Effects range. Now, of course, the effects range was designed with die cutting very much in mind. So let's see how we can use some of those wonderful effects products alongside some of our lovely dies. And today, thank you. I've got Josh on the camera and top designer as well. Thank you so much. Such a steady hand. But we're going to take a look at one lovely die set, and this is it. I've got it down here. It's called Basic Shapes. Now, we have a Basic Shapes Christmas coming out, but that's for a little later. But here we have some wonderful shapes. We've got a sun, we've got a leaf, we've got a butterfly, we've got an ice lolly, we've got hearts, we've got stars. There's a gorgeous little ladybug there, there's a moon, there's a flower. All your favourite shapes. And for me, as a designer, having these basic shapes in my stash is, well, I simply couldn't do without them. But I'm going to put them to one side for a second because I want to talk about our creamy matte acrylics. These are the Sizzix Creamy Matte Acrylics, and let me re-emphasize that word creamy because they have wonderful body. They are indeed matte and they go on so well whether you're using a brush, a palette knife or a brayer. And I'm going to start today. I'm going to put these to one side and let's just take one of the colors. This is my blue, or it's actually called, where is Bluebell? Bluebell, wonderful. Now, what I'm going to do, I've got a square of card here, and I'm actually going to apply a little blob there. Now, one of the things about this creamy matte acrylics as well, it's not like some acrylics you get out there, you need to shake it, and sometimes you get that watery bit that comes out. Not with these, my friend. They come out perfect every time. What I'm going to do, I'm going to apply this directly onto the card using the brayer. And you'll notice that I'm going to go carefully and I'm going to keep lifting this to get even coverage all over my brayer. And I'm going to go edge to edge. Now, the idea of this kind of make is, it's the imperfection that I love. It's those lovely edges. They don't have to be absolutely perfect. That is part of their charm. You see where the paint fades out towards the edge? That, my friends, is by design. Although, having said that, it is random. Every time it's slightly different. But there we have it. Wow, that's what I was going for. And you'll notice that I've already done one as well. This one was done using the lavender dust paint, and I'm going to use that in a second. Now, let's put those to one side. That's a lovely way of doing a background. You can go over this with multiple colors. You can go edge to edge. There are so many ways of doing it. But first of all, I'm going to take this, because what I want to do is I want to use these lovely dies to create a stencil. So I'm going to take them off there. This is a tatty. You can see the edges are torn. It's a piece of plain old white card. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of these dies and make a stencil. Now, should you prefer, you can actually use maker's tape with this to hold these in place, but precision is not what I need just now, and I'm going to use my lovely Big Shot machine to cut these. Now, at this point in time, I'm starting to panic, and I'll tell you why I'm starting to panic, because I haven't brought my plates. So Josh is going to sing you a song. No, actually, Josh, don't sing a song. Don't inflict that on us. I found the place, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I've saved us from one of Josh's songs. Thank goodness for that. There we are. Ah, the wonders of live TV. Now, I've put plate number 1 in place. And I'm going to place that there. This is going to be my stencil. Because obviously, if you have die cuts, it's not just about the shapes. It's about what's left behind. And that's what a stencil is, in effect. So we'll take those out. But it's not just about the stencil either. You could use those to create a mask. So it's stenciling and masking at the same time. So let's take this little fella. And actually I'll do this on the plate to make it easier for our wonderful camera operator. So I'm going to take that other star, pop it there, and then my moon, like so. So let's just look how it's just kissing the edge of that cloud, as is this star. so it's cutting into it, and we'll run that through. Now, there we have it. Nice and easy, like the proverbial knife through butter, as one would expect with Sizzix dies. And there, that's my stencil. And I'm going to use that on that lovely lavender dust background. But before I do, with die cutting, there's quite a harsh edge. You can probably pick that up there that you get. Now that can stop your stencil from actually lying flat against the card. And what it can do at its worst is that the medium that you use can actually bleed underneath that stencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place this back between my cutting plates and run it through the machine. Now what you will find is that there's just enough pressure to smooth that stencil out. I'm going to run it forward and back. So now this will act very much like a mylar stencil that is flat on both sides. So that is my tip of the day, and I'll put these to one side. Now, to get a stencil to lie even flatter, what I like to do is apply some adhesive. This is not permanent adhesive. It's you can actually peel this off and replace it at a later date. So I'm putting it into this cardboard box and just spraying a little on there, and that will help it to stay in position. And I'll just press that down in place like so. If you want to go over the top with a brayer, that's entirely up to you. Now, 3D adhesive. This is one of the most wonderful products. You can put it on with a palette knife. You can put it on with a brush. But basically, see, it's very, and I've made the joke before, this is the tackiest product Sizzix have ever brought out, because it is super sticky. But because it's 3D, that means it has body. That means it gives dimension. And you can use a lot of products with this adhesive. It works perfectly as an adhesive, of course, by itself. That's something that's part of what this is about, but it's not something that we actively promote, because obviously that goes without saying. But there are several ways you can use it. You can put it on with a palette knife. You can create great texture, and you can use your foils or your decorative flakes with it. But look what happens when I peel away that stencil there. Now, you can see I like that as it is, to be honest with you. But what you will find with 3D adhesive is it's going to dry clear. And you can see I've left little imperfections there with the palette knife, and that will pay dividends when I come to use the next product I'm going to use, which is my decorative foil sheet. So if I just take that one out, I'll set that to one side to dry. This is how your 3D adhesive dries. Can you see that there? I'm moving it around so the light can catch it. And I'm going to bring one of my lovely decorative foil sheets. There are 10 in a pack. These are the silver sheets. They're very fine. Wonderful product. Again, many ways of using it, but I'm going to use it on my 3D adhesive. Now, when this dries, if I did this 6 months ago and I come back to it, it's still quite tacky, but not as tacky as maybe I would like. So what I'm going to do to reactivate that, and this is another good little tip, is I'm going to take my heat tool and go over that. And what you'll find that by applying the heat over the adhesive, that it will reactivate it, and it will allow the adhesive to pick up the material that you're going to use. And as I said, I am using my foil sheets silver in this case. So I'll press that down and I'll just apply finger pressure over the top like so. So getting into that little star and that one there. So we're really pressing that in so that it picks up the foil. And then when I peel that away, wow, you can see how that's starting to take. And then we'll come again, really press in. This time, it does take a little while and a little patience to get full coverage with this. It's an absolutely wonderful product. You can see where I pressed there, so if you need a little more heat, then just go straight into it, reapply that. Look at some of these areas where it's really already taken fully. Absolutely gorgeous. Put that to one side, and again I'm going to come in with my foil sheets. There we are, really rub that in there. Wow, how about that? See what that little heat does? Absolutely phenomenal. Again, I'll come into this little star until, you know, you don't have to have absolutely 100% full coverage. Just by leaving bits, it can become a real design feature. But I'm going to get into as many of those little creaks and cracks and crevices as I possibly can. There, we keep going until that's flooded. Now, this not only does it give a wonderful luster and shine, and to prove that, I'm just going to hold that up and see how that dances in the light there. But you also have the dimension. Remember, it's 3D adhesive, so it works like a paste when you put it through your lovely stencil. And of course, in this case, it's a die cut stencil. Now, let me just show you. Here's one that I made earlier. So you see I've taken some of the stars, I've cut them from white, I've added a simple stamped sentiment to that, and again the adhesive is doing its work there. But let me show you another way of stenciling, and what I'm going to do this time, here's one that I prepared earlier, and using that lovely cloud that we saw, I've actually cut in several times, so you can do a repeat stencil and get a repeating pattern. And of course I have this blue background which I used with my brayer, which I created rather with my brayer earlier. So let's just dry that off so that the surface is completely dry. And these are matte acrylics, so they're pretty much dry to the touch in seconds. But I'm going to apply this again. I'll choose the place where I want to put it. And again, I'm going to employ my very hard-working cardboard box. A little spray adhesive. Remember, it is repositionable adhesive. So you don't want to put on a permanent adhesive or we can be in trouble there. Right, now, to apply it this time, I want to get some nice fluffy white clouds. So I'm going to use my white creamy matte acrylic. I'm going to place it onto my craft mat thus, and simply pick it up this time with a sponge. Now this is the sponge, this is on our multi-purpose tool with the blending head attached. I'm just going to come in. Now I want texture in these clouds. Okay, and that's why I'm applying it in this way. I'm not brushing it on like that so I get a lovely smooth even coat. No, I'm actually applying it so it's going to be different thicknesses. It's going to be, we're going to pick up the texture. It's going to be light in some parts. It's going to be heavy in others. So we'll just keep going over the top. And you can see the paint itself, because it has body. And that's the creaminess. It does have body. And what that means is, with certain techniques, you can get actual texture from the paint itself, because these are like an artist quality paint. They're not like the flat matte acrylics that one usually associates with crafts. You know, they have a lovely viscosity to them. And there we have it. I think that should just about do it. And then, wow, look at that. How about that? I mean, how simple could that be? We talk about creative play. We talk about doing stuff with our kids. That is so simple. It is so achievable. That's something that anybody could do. And it doesn't matter how random or how scattershot you are. This is what you could be producing with these simple tools. You could use any sort of sponge. You could use a bath sponge. Doesn't really matter. It's having the right tools for the job in the acrylics. That's what's going to give you these wonderful results. And if I just reach across, here's another one. So you see, I've actually used the acrylics to die cut the sun as well. So I applied the acrylics. Now, these acrylics have a certain elasticity. I think Josh coined the term elasticity when describing these acrylics, and they really do. So they die cut perfectly. They don't chip. They're not chalky, so they don't sort of fall away at the edges. Let's have a look. Another background. How about that one? That's using the lovely flower with the ladybug. There's the flower. That's the one that actually cut the stencil. Again, the stars. And we've die cut some stars and the cloud and also the moon from a piece of card to which acrylic had been applied. Then leaves. How about that? Just as simple. Now you could do two-tone with the leaves as well. You could do a darker green or a lighter green underneath with the white on top. So you can keep going. You can do multi-layers once you've got this stencil. And let me pull in the stencil that I actually used to create that. So you see, at some point I actually used a yellow, but that was on another card, which I don't have with me sadly. And then finally hearts. So a great way to create your backgrounds and foreground detail as well, just using this one simple set. So that, my friends, brings me to the end of our little lesson on acrylic. Well, it's not a lesson really, it's just some tips and tricks that I like myself. And I want to show you all of our creamy acrylics because this is the entire collection thus far, and they are all part of our colour story. Now, if you don't know what the colour story is, all our cardstock, all our sequins and beads, all our felt, all those things, they all have the same colour palette. So it makes it easier for us, makes it easier for you as well to make those choices and to get your colours absolutely right every time. So we've got Mango Tango, Limoncello, Green Tea, Agave, Arctic Sky, Bluebell, Lavender Dust, Cherry Blossom. We've got Primrose, Hibiscus, White, and seems to have its little tag missing, but that is, of course, black. Let's have a look at how we can take those acrylics. Now, using the white, obviously, and this is Hibiscus, we can blend a tint from red down to white. Then by adding the black, we can get a shade. If you mix Hibiscus with, say, Mango Tango, you can get a lovely blend like that, or doing the same thing, but this time with a palette knife to get some texture. And you can see this is where that creaminess, that richness really comes into play. You could even mix some of the acrylics with 3D products like dimensional paste, or in this case expand paste as well, to get real dimension, because they take the colour so well. As I said, they were designed to use together, so you could apply that through a stencil onto your cards. Do you know what? We barely scratched the surface today. There's so much that you can do with these wonderful products, and some of our wonderful designers will be giving you plenty of tips and tricks in the coming weeks and months to let you know how to get the best out of these wonderful products. Thank you very much for joining me today. I will see you again soon.